can begin. I see you moving.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if we can find our seats, silence our cell phones, and if somebody would be kind enough to close the back door, I greatly appreciate it. We're about to get started. Okay. Good evening, everyone. We are on the record. Today is Wednesday, the 8th day of March in the year 2023. This is a regular meeting of the Jersey City Municipal Council. We had a scheduled 6 p.m. start. The clock on my cell phone is showing exactly 6 p.m. May we have a roll call for the commencement of this meeting? Councilperson Ridley, it's not here yet. Councilperson Prinzeri. Councilperson Baggiano.
Yeah.
Councilperson Saleh is not here yet. Councilperson Solomon.
Here.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Present.
Councilperson DeGise.
Here.
She's here, but okay. I'll mark her present when she walks in. Councilperson Rivera
Here.
and Council President Waterman.
Here.
Okay, we have 6 council members in attendance at 6 p.m. Can we kindly rise for a moment of silence, please?
City Hall's famous mascot, Rogue, Councilman Baggiano's dog.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Council President Waterman, in accordance with New Jersey Public Laws of 1975, Chapter 231, the Open Public Meetings Act, also known as the Sunshine Law, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the posting on the bulletin board of the first floor of City Hall, the annual notice, which is the schedule of meetings and caucuses of the Municipal Council for the calendar year 2023, and filed in the office of the city clerk on Thursday, December 15th, 2022. In addition, at its time of its preparation, the agenda of this meeting was similarly disseminated on Friday, March 3rd, 2023 at 3:20 p.m. to the Municipal Council, Mayor, Business Administrator, Corporation Council, and the local newspapers, and posted on the city's website so I can certify as to our total compliance with the Sunshine Law. Okay, I see Councilperson DeGise present. We'll mark you present at 6:03.
Oh, my goodness.
And making his way down the aisle, knocking over agendas and all, Councilperson Saleh at 6:03.
Denise is here.
So now we have 8 council members present at 6:03. All right, council members, before we move on to the regular order of business, we do have a couple of late items.
Motion to add.
But before we do that, I have the business administrator would like to make an announcement.
Okay, so just to go over a few items for the council, we'll treat them as we go through it, but we have the 3 late items. 2 of them were from the UEZ that we discussed. It was just a computer glitch that they weren't transferred over. And as we spoke at the caucus, we're just accepting the funds, and then we'll bring back to the council the plan to expend those funds. So this is just for the tranches of those funds. This includes small business loans throughout the UEZ locations, which we'll talk about the parameters with the council. And the other late item I discussed with the councilman at large, Dana Rivera, who is the liaison to the Public Safety Department. And there was some fire training stuff that was going through the process of purchasing, but it is time sensitive. So just asking if the council could visit it. and just because of the time sensitivity around it. As far as the other items, we are still going to withdraw 8, 9, and 10 as we discussed at the caucus because they weren't represented at the caucus. And we are going to table both second readings for the lead remediation program. So that would be the programming and the fees, because I did initially say we were going to proceed with the fees, but if there's a structural change, we'd have to go back and change it anyway.
We're still going to hold a public hearing though, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
All righty. With that being said, let's do the first order of business. And I need a motion to add items 10.43, resolution 23-190, which is a resolution of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City authorizing the submission of an application to the New Jersey Urban Enterprise Zone Authority for Enterprise Zone Assistance Funds for UEZ Small Business Loan Program.
Motion.
I'm not finished, guys. I'm sorry. Sorry. Item 10.44, resolution 23-191, which is a resolution authorizing the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City authorizing the submission of an application to the New Jersey Urban Enterprise Authority for Enterprise Zone Assistance Funds, Special Improvement District Service Support. And last but not least, item 10.45, resolution 23-192, resolution authorizing an award of a contract to Target Solutions Learning Vector Solutions for tracking software for the fire training under the National Purchasing Partners Government Purchasing System of the Department of Public Safety Communications Center.
Motion.
So I have a motion made by Councilperson Saleh, and I'm going to give the second to Councilperson Prinzary to add items 10.43, 44, and 45. Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Maggiano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
For your administration, I know there's some people here to talk about the UEZ, and I understand in the caucus, we agreed we were accepting the tranches, but would decide. But can you just describe the two added late items, just briefly what the funding goes to, just so everyone is on the same page?
Council, the two items, we have 10.43, that's a small business loan, as I discussed earlier, and basically this would be small loans provided to local businesses within the UEZs. They'd be paid off over years with a 2% interest that would go back into the UEZs. I'm happy to work with the council on the specifics of, size and criteria of those businesses, but it's a focus on local Jersey City entities, nothing of large big box scale. The second item we have is location, is funds for the UEZ special improvement districts. So essentially what that is we're asking each special improvement district to provide programming that they'd wish to pursue this year. And then it would be approved by us and then allocated to them. In years past, they would just get a tranche of money and they spent it as they wished. We want to see the projects this year prior to allocating those funds. So this is just to lock those dollars into an account, and then we'll draw down based on what's submitted by the UEZs.
I'll vote aye to add the items.
Okay, thank you. Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilperson DeGise.
Aye.
Councilperson Rivera.
Aye.
And Council President Waterman.
Aye.
Motion carries 8-0 to add items 10.43, 44, and 45 to the agenda, with Councilperson Ridley absent. Is Councilperson Ridley going to be absent for the meeting?
Well, she'll be here. She'll be here.
Okay, no problem. All righty. Moving on to our regular order of business, our first reading ordinances. If you would allow me to read them into the record, item 3.1, City Ordinance 23-019 is an ordinance disestablishing the Jersey City Municipal Construction Board of Appeals. Item 3.2, City Ordinance 23-020 is an ordinance of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City adopting the 244 Bay Street redevelopment plan. Item 3.3, City Ordinance 23-021 is an ordinance adopting amendments to the Liberty Harbor to North redevelopment plan to the permitted use and building type for the portion of block 15907. Item 3.4, City Ordinance 23-022 is an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 337, Water, Section 13, Water Emergencies. I didn't silence my cell phone. Standard enumerated to include the lead service line replacement program. Item 3.5, City Ordinance 23-023, an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 3, Parking, Standing, and Stopping, amending Section 332-22, parking prohibited at all times on the west side of Arlington Avenue from Grand Street to Communipaw Avenue. And last but not least, item 3.6, City Ordinance 23-024 is an ordinance amending Ordinance 15-88 in regards to Chapter 3, Administration of Government, Article 12, Department of Health and Human Services of the Jersey City Code, changing the responsible department for the Adopt a Lot program to the Department of Public Works, Division of Solid Waste and Recycling. Before I take a vote, council members, I just want to mark Councilperson Ridley present at 6:10 PM. So we have all 9 council members present at 6:10 PM.
Sean?
Yes.
I'm requesting that 3.1 be carried. And I know the reason, and I thought we agreed on that the other night at the caucus meeting.
I know we agreed that we would introduce it and then we would all have a discussion. Or we'll be
Yeah.
introduced tonight.
Councilman, just for procedural purposes, it doesn't exist until we introduce it. So we're just
All right.
asking to introduce it, and at the next caucus meeting, the mayor had asked the council president for some conversation.
What are we gonna do?
We're gonna introduce it, but
Megan,
then we'll meet and then we'll see if we want to pull it or whatever.
A vote, Councilman. This is just to introduce the legislation.
Just to introduce. It's not the final vote.
All right,
That's all.
Okay. All right, council members. So I'm going to be taking the vote on items 3.1 through 3.6. Again, that's items 3.1 to 3.6. Councilperson Ridley,
Aye for introduction.
Councilperson Prinzary,
Aye for introduction.
Councilperson Baggiano.
no on 3.1, yes on the rest.
Thank you. Councilperson Saleh,
Aye for introduction.
Councilperson Solomon,
just want to make some brief on the record comments. On 3.1, I'll vote to introduce and very much want the further discussion. It seems like maybe something to look at with the idea of creating a, kind of whether you call it an ethics standards or a conflict of interest standards that could apply to both this board and all other boards that the city has. So I think that is an option for us to look at versus simply abolishing it. 3.2, meeting with city planning to discuss why they think that this building is better suited to be commercial, and we'll update the council on their reasoning for that versus a residential. 3.3, just getting some of the legal information we got. So thank you for Corporation Counsel, but that needs to be reviewed. So voting to introduce is not accepting the proposal as written, and so want to have more conversation in the following 2 weeks. So with that, aye for all.
Councilperson Gilmore,
Aye for introduction.
Councilperson DeGise,
Aye for introduction, but on 3.1, I have some things I want to discuss prior to approval for it.
Councilperson Rivera,
Aye.
and Council President Waterman.
Aye for introduction.
Okay, if I can just recap, item 3.1 is introduced 8-1 with Councilperson Baggiano voting no. And items 3.2 through 3.6 are introduced 9-0. Okay, on to our second reading ordinances. Our first Second reading ordinance is item 4.1, City Ordinance 23-016 is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 2, Traffic Regulations, Section 332-9, Stop Intersections, to designate various unsignalized intersections as multi-way stop control intersections. This is a public hearing on this ordinance. Any member of the public wishing to be heard, please come up to the podium and state your name for the record.
Motion.
Second.
Motion to close the public hearing on City Ordinance 23-016 was made by Council President Waterman, seconded by Councilperson Saleh. On the motion to close the public hearing on City Ordinance 23-016, Councilperson Ridley,
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary,
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano,
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh,
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon,
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore, Councilperson DeGise,
Aye.
Councilperson Rivera,
Aye.
and Council President Waterman. Motion carries unanimously 9-0 to close the public hearing on City Ordinance 23-016. For final consideration and adoption of City Ordinance 23-016, Councilperson Ridley,
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary, Councilperson Baggiano,
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh,
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon,
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore,
Aye.
Councilperson DeGise,
Aye.
Councilperson Rivera,
Aye.
and Council President Waterman.
Aye.
City Ordinance 23-016 is adopted unanimously 9-0. Okay, on to our next second reading ordinance. Item 4.2, City Ordinance 23-017 is an ordinance amending Chapter 3 of the Jersey City Code, Administration of Government, Article 10, Department of Housing, Economic Development and Commerce, assigning enforcement Lead Hazard Control Assistance Act to the Division of Housing Preservation. This is a public hearing on this ordinance. Any member of the public wishing to be heard, please come up to the podium and state your name for the record.
Motion.
Second.
So I have a motion to close the public hearing by Councilperson Rivera on City Ordinance 23-017, excuse me, and seconded by Council President Waterman. On the motion to close the public hearing on City Ordinance 23-017, Councilperson Ridley,
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary,
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano,
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh,
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon,
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore,
Aye.
Councilperson DeGise,
Aye.
Councilperson Rivera,
Aye.
and Council President Waterman. Motion to close the public hearing on City Ordinance 23-017 is unanimously approved, 9-0. So council members, I will not be taking a vote on the ordinance, just as the business administrator stated earlier. We would like to have a motion to table City Ordinance 23-017 after the close of the public hearing. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion
Second.
made by Councilperson Saleh. Did I hear a second by?
Second.
Thought it-
Me, Sean.
Oh, Maggiano, there you go. Thank you. On the motion to table City Ordinance 23-017 after the close of the public hearing, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilperson DeGise.
Aye.
Councilperson Rivera.
Aye.
And Council President Waterman. Motion to table City Ordinance 23-017 after the close of the public hearing is approved unanimously, 9-0. On to our next second reading ordinance, item 4.3, City Ordinance 23-018. An ordinance supplementing Chapter 160 Fees and Charges, Section 1, Fee Schedule Established, subsection 10, Chapter 254, Property Maintenance, establishing a fee schedule for the lead-based hazard inspection of rental units pursuant to Pamphlet Law 2021, Section C, .182, and amending Chapter 254, Property Maintenance to include the registration of properties for compliance under the Lead Hazard Control Assistance Act. This is a public hearing on this ordinance. Any member wishing to be heard? And I see Jean Daley.
Good evening, it's Jean Daley. I just have a question about about taking the public comments now. Because if, for example, if this ordinance is under consideration right now, and that you're going to examine it? Are you going to change things that may be substantial? And sometimes these substantial things are arbitrary or labeled arbitrary as insubstantial. So if this is going to be changed, you cannot take the public comment on something that's going to be changed because we haven't had an opportunity to see it.
Thank you, Jean. He'll answer for you.
I still have 2.15 seconds.
But you want your answer, so he was gonna answer.
Well, if they don't have it, that's really a problem. It should be at their
No,
fingertips.
No, Jean, he's gonna answer it. Don't worry. BA, that's what I'm saying. He's getting up to answer.
So council, if there's any substantial change, we'd have to
Right.
reintroduce it, which would then trigger another public hearing. So the reason we are tabling these items because they're connected between the fee schedule and the operations. The fee schedule actually offsets the potential inspections that the city would be administering. We're just tabling it to make sure any operational standards that we meet within this department are detailed in here. So if anything, we just expand upon the current language, not necessarily change anything that would be substantial.
Thank you.
I disagree with that because
Okay.
I've noticed sometimes that I have time that what the business corporation council will say is, oh, it's not significant, it's an insignificant change. Well, if you look at it, some is significant. And I think their judgment call is always saying it's insignificant when in fact it is significant. And so what do we have to do then? Now we got to sue them because we think it's significant and you guys don't, or corporation council doesn't? I think this is really a problem. We should never have this happening again. Get the first reading ordinance in, second reading, give us what you got, and we discuss it. I want to know what I'm talking about, and you're going to deprive me of that situation 2 weeks from now. It really bothers me a lot, and I don't think we should be doing this in this city. Thanks.
Thank you, Jean.
Hey, this is still a public hearing on City Ordinance 23-018. Any member of the public wishing to be heard, please come up to the podium and state your name for the record, please.
Motion. Second.
Motion to close the public hearing on City Ordinance 23-018 was made by Councilperson Rivera and seconded by Councilperson Saleh. On the motion to close the public hearing on City Ordinance 23-018, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilperson DeGise. Councilperson Rivera.
Aye.
And Council President Waterman. Motion to close the public hearing on City Ordinance 23-018 is approved unanimously 9-0. So again, council members, as the business administrator stated earlier, I'm going to be looking for a motion to table City Ordinance 23-018 after the close of the public hearing. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion made by Councilperson Rivera, and I'll give the close second to Councilperson Saleh. On a motion to table City Ordinance 23-018 after the close of the public hearing, Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilperson DeGise. Councilperson Rivera.
Aye.
And Council President Waterman. Motion to table City Ordinance 23-018 after the close of the public hearing is approved unanimously 9-0. Okay, and that moves us to our public hearing. So we're going to go to our speakers. And I believe that our first speaker is Laverne Webb Washington. Before she starts, we start the clock for her. She has a little special presentation, which I'm not going to time her for. So don't take advantage of that, Laverne.
She's giving you.
I was only joking.
Ordiani? Ordiani,
Oh, yeah.
Maggiano.
Choice.
you know I love you. You've been a part of my life for most of my life. People don't know you the way I know you when you was a Jersey City police officer, when you was in uniform, when you was up and down Municipal Avenue, Jackson Avenue at the time, Ocean, you and Chopper, Martinez, Gordon Gain, John Jackson, who just passed. It was a lot of you guys that intervened with us in the community. When we got out of line, you put us back in line. You saved a lot of us lives, and I appreciate that. And when I went to my brother in the uniform, Tony Jordan passed this week. They had his service on Tuesday, and before this happened, I said, "Let me give my friend his flowers while he yet lived." And I want you to know how much you mean to me, in my community. A lot of the guys that was with you have gone on to God, but to God be the glory to spare your life, and to you to continue to make a difference in our community. Even you sit up there, you don't have to do that, but yet you still give back, and I appreciate you, and that's why I want to give you your flowers while you live. Thank you.
How sweet that was.
That was sweet.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you for that.
so officially, Laverne,
Yes,
you are on the clock.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Uh.
You know, growing up in Jersey City, and I ride around and I look at it, I went to Old Ferris. I remember down here, we used to go fishing and crabbing, and we had changed. Along with changing, we need to bring change to everybody. There's a community at large that's not in this, it's not in this plan. And we got to find a way. I was up at Lincoln High School last Saturday to Bites program, and she showed me the room where it used to be the shop, where kids learn how to make stuff. I remember my brother Joe Webb, God bless him, when he was in 22, 50, 70 years ago, he made a bookcase that we still have in our house. Our kids, I went to 22, and when I graduated, I sewed. I made my exit day outfit. I learned how to cook. We already knew, but we learned different ways. But today, our children don't have nothing. There's no training there. We letting everything go out of our schools where everybody is not going to be a teacher. Everybody's not going to college. Everybody's not going to be a scientist. We took away trades from our children. And they got to go out of town. My grandson now goes to Lincoln Tech. Now, out of high school, he couldn't get some of the stuff that was being taught in our public schools. We let all this money go out, and our kids standing on the street corners smoking blunts, smoking the smoke pipes, and they losing it. Even our young girls, we not offering them nothing. We need to turn the page. Too much big development going on in our city. When I work with developers, I ask them to give something back in this community. I give out free coats, book bags for 30 years. I run a free camp. I don't get no grant money. I don't want none. I want our kids to learn that they can make it in this city. We got to do better. We got to do better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, 5.2, Marcus Finley. Marcus? Not here. Okay, 5.3, Nelson Rivera. Not here. Okay. Next, 5.4, Jean Daley.
Okay. Yes, it's Jean Daley again. I have to echo what Laverne has to say because when I was in high school, we actually had a section of our high school, which was a VOTEC. And kids learned how to do mechanics. They had drafting. I came up in a rural area, so they had animal husbandry. But, the city needs to teach welding. We need to have our VOTEC high schools back. Couple of things, though. The firehouse on Bay Street. Why are we selling our historic properties? This was the Historic Fire Museum, which had the old engines in there. We had a lot of memorabilia from that time. The Gong Club was located there, and yet Fulop decides to unilaterally just pull the plug on them and make this, to sell it to somebody. And you know who's going to sell it to? One of his friends, because that's what always happens around here. So I'm disgusted about this because this is exactly how it went down. I mean, how do you pick and choose that a building is a redevelopment area? This is what Fulop has been doing. You guys pluck lot by lot by lot or choose house by house and decide it's a redevelopment area? This is asinine, and it's disgusting what this mayor and anybody else who just blindly rides on his coattails are doing to the city. And it's a disgrace, absolute disgrace. As far as the lead pipes and the $10,000 that you get a water grant, I don't know if anyone back here has read this, but if you replace your own lead water pipes, you end up getting a $10,000 credit towards your water bill. How are you going to pay your plumber with a $10,000 credit for a water bill? Is this the most ludicrous thing anyone's ever heard of in their entire life? And this particular ordinance went from, okay, you have to replace the lead lines before you sell it. Now it's like, we'll do it within 10 years, but if you do it yourself, well, we're only going to give you $10,000 water credit and it expires when you sell your house. And what if you're selling your house tomorrow? What do? You're not going to wait for the MUA to come around and do it. So this is a raw deal, complete raw deal. Another thing I'd like to mention is how we have our public notices. And I think this is something you must consider, that under our petitions and communications, we do have letters dated January 23rd, January 31st, February 24th. These are all public notices from the DEP. These public notices need to be made public immediately so the public can comment, because you only have a 15-day time period. So we need to do something about it, and fast. Thank you.
Our next speaker, William Santamar.
Members of the council, ladies and gentlemen of the public, happy International Women's Day. My name is Billy Santamar. I'm a proud lifelong resident of Jersey City, father of a 16-year-old son, 13-year-old daughter, and a husband to my wife of 20 years. I'm a UCC licensed construction official with building and high-rise, high-hazard, and fire disciplines. I currently sit on the Construction Board of Appeals as the interim chairman. The Construction Board of Appeals was established in Jersey City 41 years ago. I stand before you to argue the Construction Board of Appeals should remain at the city level and not be transferred to the county. The Construction Board of Appeals is a major conduit between Jersey City's first responders, code officials, and property owners. The board plays a crucial role maintaining safety and welfare of everyone in this city. We urge the Construction Board be made we are the Construction Board, is made up of professionals in accordance with NJAC 5:23A. We are appointed members that meet specific requirements set forth by the state and local ordinance. We mediate appeals filed by property owners in Jersey City. We serve professionally, always reach the ultimate goal of life safety through discussion. We have enforcing agencies represented at our hearings, as well as appellants that always create resolution. If either party feels unjustly served, either party reserves the right to move the case to Superior Court. We urge you, the council, to contact all the enforcing agencies and the law department and ask them about the benefit that this local board does for our community. By transferring the Construction Board of Appeals to the county, we lose the local connection and expertise. The individuals on the board have in-depth knowledge of local community, its unique needs and requirements that are specific to Jersey City. This is the exact intent of the state statute. We spend countless hours preparing appropriately and provide local level of oversight that can never be matched by a county board. We hear approximately 12 to 15 appeals per month. We have managed major housing crises like a homeless shelter shutdown, displacing numerous constituents due to PSE&G service interruption. This interruption caused fire alarm systems to be turned off. Jersey City Department of Buildings classified it as an imminent hazard as of right. We contacted the Jersey City Fire Department, worked directly with the shelter to conduct fire watch. We had housing work directly with PSE&G to restore the power that had the building department remove its imminent hazard shutdown, resulting in restoration of occupancy of this homeless shelter within 24 hours. I'm running out of time and I'm reading as fast as I can. So I sat in disbelief on Monday night, listening to all the comments like members for decades, and even the term stale was used. Honestly, I felt offended. This board is appointed by local jurisdiction. Local is the operative word. We never got replaced.
Billy, don't worry. They're not going to do away with it.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.6, Rosalie Narcessa.
Follow up on what Ms. Washington said,
Rosalie, if you can bring the mic down, there you go.
that you're building a city for people who don't live here. I've lived here my whole life. There's nothing, absolutely nothing. I came here basically because I'm having a go-around with the JCMUA. Apparently, my water meter is broken. They won't touch it because of my valves. So they expect me to pay $5,000 so they could replace their broken water meter. Now, today I got a phone call from Councilman Solomon's aide who's reached out. They sent Guarini to my house today to take a look. They are the most expensive plumber in Jersey City. The first thing he said to me was, we'll dig up the street, we'll dig up the sidewalk, we'll dig up the garden, and we'll dig all the way through your basement. That's your water meter. It's not mine. I need a solution. This city has become uninhabitable for long-term residents. Why am I paying $26 to put out a bag of garbage this big once a week? Where did you come up with $26? A family of 6 puts out 3 times, 4 times the amount of garbage I put out. Why is it based per unit? Why don't you ask questions? You're sitting up there, you're rubber stamping everything Philip's doing. You're now making $85,000 a year. I didn't make near that in my last job. I was expected to show up every single day. You have other jobs. This is now gravy. Your job is not to sit up here and rubber stamp ordinances. It's to help run the city. What are you going to do when the Board of Ed wants to raise taxes because we're going to be short $51 million in the board budget? You going to let them do it again? I paid last year $24,000 in property tax. I don't care about the senior freeze. I have to give all that money before I get some of it back. What are you doing? You have the worst senior services in the city. It's like it's the #1 city for young professionals. I'm not a young professional. I'm going to be 78 years old. What have you done for me? What have these developers done? They put up affordable housing units that nobody I know has the income to afford them. You are destroying the city for older residents, and we all know it. And this new thing about the water department, Newark City Hall, they did it all for free in the whole city, and they did it for free, and they did it on time.
Thank you.
Rosalie, It's good seeing you. I haven't seen you in years, but when I was downtown working as a police officer, you were one of the best people down there. Yeah, she was a good person.
Our next speaker, 5.7, Suzanne Marie Carr.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Marie Carr, and this is Frank Sassini. And we are here to read into the record a petition from the people who live on Christopher Columbus Drive and work on Christopher Columbus Drive. We, the undersigned, residents and business owners on Christopher Columbus Drive and surrounding streets in the Ward E and F of Jersey City, request the immediate reversal of recent traffic diet adjustments and parking space eliminations, which have made living and working on the drive completely untenable. Not only have these unreasonable changes made the vehicle owners less safe by requiring exit from their vehicles either into traffic or into the path of bicyclists, but the city has also allowed a harassment program to ticket residents who park in previously legal spaces during the night, the dark of night, and early morning hours. Residents and business owners along Christopher Columbus Drive were never asked for input or to suggest alternatives to the plan that has significant impact on their quality of life. The city engineering department has used a survey of unidentified people assumed to be members of the bikejc.org to determine what should happen where we live and work. While absolutely understanding the need for safe bicycle lanes, residents and business owners also need safe spaces. Redesigned parking spaces are about 7.5 feet wide, while bike lanes are 5 feet, with a 1 foot zone of restricted space between the parking lanes and bike lanes. Buses, trucks, personal vehicles now restricted to 1 lane come perilously close to us as we enter and exit our vehicles. We're no longer able to park and safely walk to our homes. Therefore, the undersigned requests that the city return the stolen parking places and ticketing be suspended in such time that the city has considered our requests and completed its diet assessments. That's the end of it. I have about 140 signatures on here on these. I just want to ask that you please reach out to us and allow us to have input into this assessment. I understand that it's not finished yet, at least we were told it was not, but we haven't heard and had the opportunity to give any input other than this kind of thing. I've received 4 tickets already, and I haven't paid them, but I have given you documentation as to why I didn't pay them, and I pled not guilty. He only had 1. Thank you.
Paid it.
Thank you.
Hey,
Paid
Miss.
mine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, no, they're downtown.
Okay, our next speaker, 5.8, Jake Frosis. Efros, sorry if I got the last name wrong. Jake? Didn't make it? Okay, thank you. I appreciate the help. 5.9, Ron Bautista.
Good evening, everyone. And also happy International Women's Day. My name is Ron Bautista. I'm running for county commissioner in the district to represent, among many of the Jersey City residents, the tenants of Portside Towers. I also want to acknowledge one of the statements earlier. There is a high need for more nonprofit apartment units for people on fixed income, for senior citizens. It's not enough only with rent control. It's not enough only with legal representation for tenants. Although if we can't get the basics, then we're really on a struggle. Our tenants, our residents are really in a struggle. I worry about the silence of the mayor for months. The work that the tenants have put up so far, it's commendable to a team, a clinic of lawyers. They have been able to get so much data, so much information, make a case for themselves, really trying to represent themselves. But also I commend them in coming together and providing that collaboration, working across with other organizers, like the ones for right to counsel, and adding other tenants as well from other parts of the city. As many have said, and many of the tenants have said, it's going to be an election year, sometime soon for governor. I think that it would be interesting to see what the rest of New Jersey thinks about the situation. How can we cross borders with other tenants in other parts of the state to show what's going on here in Jersey City? I do thank Councilman Gilmore, Councilman Solomon for really addressing the concerns of the constituents, having a meeting with them yesterday, answering some of their questions. I know it's a tough situation for the council, right? Because of, you also depend on that executive side. You depend on that enforcer side. I do hope that we can get some updates on what's going on with legislation that would really protect tenants now. Tenants are saying that how much longer can they really hold on to those 30% raises, 25% raises? Some of them have had to move out of the building already. You have heard from them. I don't have to repeat it. You have heard from them before. There is a sense of urgency. They need, I don't need it. They need to hear from their representatives what's going on and how can we help now. Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.10, Kevin Weller.
Hello again. My name is Kevin Weller, the elected president of the Portside Towers East Tenant Association. The real issues can be reduced to trust, transparency, and process. I called Dinah Hendon, the rent leveling administrator at the time, in May of last year to discuss the rent control status of our building. At that time, she told me that a building is never just exempt from rent control, but rather actions are necessary in order to obtain an exemption. She went on to say that paperwork for our buildings needed to be filed by the original owner, and that was not done, and it cannot now be done, her exact phrasing. Essentially, she said, no filing, no exemption. Before I made this call, I talked to Councilman Solomon to discuss the call I planned to have. After I had the call with Dinah, he called Dinah too, and then he called me. To my recollection, and according to the notes which I emailed to Dinah and Councilman Solomon after those calls, what I'm describing is 100% accurate. So Dinah Hendon knew the ordinance and that our buildings were subject to rent control in May of last year. One thing she didn't expect is that we would submit so many Oprah requests and discover so much of what's really going on here. We have just cracked the surface of the information that we will be sharing. What has become apparent from all the feedback we have received is that Mayor Fulop is the reason we find ourselves in this situation. Even some of our council members have been quoted in the press encouraging all of us to switch gears to bring as much attention as possible to Mayor Fulop. Tonight will be the beginning of that campaign. Think of tonight as a speech and media warning shot. We welcome the mayor's involvement, and we will reach out to him to facilitate that involvement, whether he chooses to help or not. I expect he will be the most covered mayor in Jersey City history. He can decide based on his actions what that coverage will be. If Mayor Fulop chooses not to help, his opponents can reach us at rentcontroljc@gmail.com. We also started a GoFundMe for the legal fight we are being forced into because this city is choosing not to enforce the law. Please search for Portside Towers on GoFundMe. That legal fight will not be our only legal action related to everything we are continuing to discover. On my way over here, a national newspaper called me about some criminal activity we have uncovered together. I have given my word they get to break that news. I strongly suggest, to the degree anything is being slow walked, all parties involved pick up the pace. We are going to pick up our pace. Please follow us on Twitter at RentControlJC, email us at rentcontroljc@gmail.com, and donate to our GoFundMe by searching for Portside Towers. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker, 5.11, Jessica Rasulo.
again, Jessica Rasulo. Good to see you. Thank you, council people. Proud mom of 2 wonderful children who I'm raising to be active members of our Jersey City community. Portside has been our home for 9+ years. I live at 100 Warren, where there was no filing of a claim of rent control exemption at least 30 days prior to the issuance of our certificate of occupancy. No filing, no exemption. We know the details. We know them because my neighbors and I have been here for the last 8+ council meetings, educating you all on the details. We've implored you and all of the elected and appointed officials who have a responsibility to, who have sworn an oath to, represent the people of Jersey City to enforce the law. We have done this without the benefit of counsel. I've now missed 8 bedtimes and 8 dinners with my children for council meetings. Countless hours have been spent by our community beyond just council meetings. Hours that should have been spent with our loved ones, that should have been spent sleeping, enjoying this great city we choose to and pay to be a part of. But I need to be here. We need to be here to fight for our rights, to fight for the rights of our neighbors, and to fight for the rights of our community members who do not have the privilege of being able to sacrifice their evenings to be here with you. We are here. Mayor Phillip, where are you? Where is your outrage, your action, or even your acknowledgement of the painful mistreatment of your constituents? Where are you? Why aren't you here with us? Your constituents are suffering, and we are here fighting to make your community a better place without you. Where are you? A huge thank you to Commissioner Romano for taking a strong stand to do what's right and lawful. Thank you to the council people who have spoken up on our behalf. Please approve the standardized form we created on your behalf to eliminate these hardships going forward. Director Richardson, where is your response to the petition submitted on 213, which so clearly show that there was no filing, no exemption? And Mayor Phillip, where are you? Follow the law, enforce rent control, and ensure that no community member needs to live in fear of the landlord by supporting our right to counsel. Please also support our GoFundMe, because in addition to time, this fight will sadly take an unmissed amount of funds from our community to fight corporations that are supported by our government clearly. No filing, no exemption. And any Jersey City tenants looking to join the fight to protect our rights, please email rentcontroljc@gmail.com. Thank you. And thank you to all the women on International Women's Day.
Next speaker, 5.12, Marlene Franklin.
So the council, my name is Marlene Franklin, and I live at Portside. I'm a retired lawyer. Some might say a recovering lawyer. But before becoming a lawyer, I was a teacher. And so that's my plan tonight, is to teach. So phones down, eyes on me, focus. There will be a grade at the end of this. So I looked at this wonderful group here and I didn't see a lot of seniors. So I've decided I'll be the messenger for seniors. We know from the New York Times that New Jersey City is the most expensive city in the country. We also know in a survey of rent increases that Jersey City came 3 from the top, with an average rent increase between 2021 and 2022 of 66% on average. Seniors are on fixed incomes. Many of them are trying to make sure that their funds last as long as they do. And some of them are trying to preserve some of their assets for their children and their grandchildren. They can't afford to live here. And I don't really think you want to see a city without seniors. And as a senior and a litigator, please do not waste our taxpayers' money on litigation. Resolve this now. The facts are clear. This group has researched monumentally all the facts. The law is clear. They gave you a standardized form on how to interpret Section 260. So let's move it along. One last piece of wisdom from this senior. We vote.
In the last midterms, 61% of the voters were 50 and over. In my opinion, these seniors will not vote for candidates who support developers and landlords who are going to raise their rent. And they will not support those who failed or delayed to enforce the law. An old legal maxim is justice delayed is justice denied. Please, let's move on it. Your homework is as follows. Have on the open meeting, approve the standardized form, rule on the 2 petitions that are pending, and then let the rent leveling board make its decision. Your grade, guys, incomplete.
Our next speaker, 5.13, Jessica Braun. Did I get it right? Bran?
It's bran, like
Bran?
bran flakes, the cereal. Yeah.
I keep doing that every meeting. I'm sorry, Jessica.
Okay, there's no U in there, man.
I want there to be. Sorry. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say good evening, councilmen and councilwomen, and my condolences, Councilman Maggiano. So anyway, just my condolences. You can go. It's okay. I wanted to share some information with you tonight that I've come to learn after we received a 34% rent increase last summer. In October 2022, a ProPublica investigation documented how rent price setting software by RealPage uses nearby competitors' non-public rent data to feed an algorithm. I think we're all familiar with how algorithms are penetrating our lives. This algorithm suggests what landlords should charge for available apartments each day. And legal experts have said the algorithm may be enabling violations of antitrust laws. Shortly thereafter, 17 Democratic members of the U.S. House of Representatives sent a letter to the Department of Justice and the Federal Trade Commission asking them to investigate RealPage. Following that letter, Senator Klobuchar, chair of the Senate Subcommittee on Competition Policy, Antitrust and Consumer Rights, sent a letter to the DOJ's Antitrust Division urging the U.S. Department of Justice to investigate RealPage's price-setting software and how it's undermining competition and pushing up rents. The letter, also signed by Dick Durbin of Illinois and Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey, said, "We are concerned that the use of this rate-setting software amounts to a cartel to artificially inflate rental rates in multifamily residential buildings, and they encourage the DOJ to take appropriate action to protect renters and competition in the residential rental markets." In January, President Biden asked the DOJ to address these anti-competitive information sharing practices in the housing market. And just last week, U.S. Senators Warren, Sanders, Smith, and Markey also asked the DOJ to investigate RealPage. Since ProPublica's investigation was published, 3 lawsuits have been filed on behalf of renters, alleging that the software is artificially inflating rents and facilitating collusion. Renters in San Diego filed a lawsuit against RealPage, alleging that RealPage and 9 of the nation's biggest property managers, and I'm sure you're surprised, this includes Equity Residential, formed a rental housing cartel to artificially inflate rents. With all of this in mind, I would encourage everyone present, the Jersey City Council and aspiring Governor Fulop, don't be on the wrong side here. Ensure your constituents are not priced out of their homes. Enforce existing law here in Jersey City. Enforce 260. Introduce the standardized form evaluating exemption status. Embrace right to counsel so that everyone has access to affordable housing. And if you are so inclined, please donate to our GoFundMe.
Thank you. Our next speaker, 5.14, Sonia Kirschner.
Hello, good evening, Council. My name is Sonia Kirschner, as you know by now. Happy International Women's Day to all women here. I finally made it to see Hamilton last week, a fabulous show, and so much to learn, not only about American history for me, but also about politics. Talk less, smile more. Sir Aaron Burr's recommendation to the young Alexander Hamilton when he entered the field. Talk less, smile more. Throughout the musical, you can see how Hamilton struggles with that. You can see how he wants to talk his truth. Throughout the last 9 months here at City Hall, it became obvious that the same principles still apply today. Talk less, smile more. I'm wondering what recommendations this council received from a mayor who smiles a lot. I'm wondering what leadership Pastor Richardson has received from the same ever-smiling mayor. I'm wondering how you keep a job in America if you don't fulfill your simplest duties. Like Pastor Richardson, who until today has not reviewed the new Portside petitions our neighbors turned in 4 weeks ago, and whose review is due within 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. Like you, council members, who have been provided with a simple form to determine if rent control applies by us over 8 weeks ago, and which has still not even been given a single minute of review here. I've worked my entire career in or for mostly for-profit organizations. I have my own business. In all these places, I've learned that people lose their jobs when they don't follow up on their duties, that businesses lose customers if they don't deliver. Normal people cannot just smile things away. While I love smiling, and I like your smiling faces too, I feel we've smiled enough. Now it's the time for serious talk and especially action. Where is our ever-smiling mayor? When can we meet him and address our concerns with him? Mayor Fulop, I invite you to show your smiling face here during the next council meeting. It's on March 23rd. Skip one ribbon cutting and one handshake with investors. Skip one business opening like the other day on your Instagram where you had the time to conduct a full interview with a gym owner in Jersey City. Week after week, we represent thousands of families here, and you couldn't care less. In all this, to all this administration, follow the law, enforce 260, no filing, no exemption. And to all Jersey City tenants, join us, follow us on Twitter at Rent Control JC. Thank you.
Next speaker, 5.15, Danilo Kirschner.
Hello, good evening. My name is Danilo Kirschner. We spoke about discrepancies of the rent control status of Portside Towers. You know now that 1994 cannot come before 1992. You also know we are waiting for answers for very simple questions regarding the exemption filing. So I started to wonder, why are these questions still not answered? After some research, it turns out if you peel back the shiny layers of success, and the smiling mayor at city events, I swear we didn't coordinate that. Jersey City's government shows its real face, and that is an ugly face. What do I mean? For example, Mayor Fulop and 25 guests on a 110-foot yacht of a Jersey City investor holding a fundraiser for his super PAC for the generous discount of 95% of what that would normally cost. Here's our smiling mayor. Must be fun doing a fundraiser on a super yacht. Another example, campaign donations for the federal elections in return for development projects or city contracts. A city contractor for a construction shop asks the mayor for permission before speaking to journalists. Media outlets and journalists that are critical get blacklisted by the mayor's office. We heard a lot about corruption in the last weeks in our speeches. It seems to be much more than that. It's a game of greed, power, and fear. What does that have to do with our issue, you might ask? Well, considering the attitude of the mayor, it seems a quote in a recent interview seems to be in a whole new light. He said, finding new people who want to invest in the city, That's a byproduct of having clear policies that people feel comfortable with, that they could invest in Jersey City and have certainty that those policies won't change. Does that mean they also don't change when they break the law? Or another quote from the same interview. You have to build more market rate in order to keep rent overall stabilized. How does that fit together with Jersey City becoming the most expensive city for renters? The only stability we'll have is that rents go up extraordinarily every year. To get control over this, we demand the enforcement of Ordinance 260. We have a pretty good picture of how Mayor Fulop supports investors. Unfortunately, in 9 months since we started this, he never came forward to speak to us. Therefore, we would like to hear from the mayor in person.
Thank you. Our next speaker, 5.16, Barbara Goldberg.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Goldberg and I live at Portside Towers. Let's talk about the open meeting request that has been repeatedly made for months now, but it's not been scheduled. It's been 8 long weeks since Portside created a standardized form to help enforce Ordinance 260 and submitted that form to you asking to schedule an open meeting to review it. The purpose of the form was to help anybody, especially the director of the landlord-tenant office, to make a determination as to whether a building is subject to rent control. It's super easy, super straightforward, so that no one can throw nonsense into the mix to cloud the decision. 8 weeks, and still the open meeting hasn't been scheduled. In fact, it's been an entire month since the February 8th City Council meeting when no less than 3 Portside tenants each dedicated their public speaking time to ask again to schedule that open meeting on Ordinance 260. Councilman Saleh, you stated, quote, "As far as the open meeting, I defer to the clerk and the Corporation Council as to how to go about doing that or what the proper procedures are," unquote. And yet the pleas from my neighbors and friends have yielded no scheduled meeting. So right here, right now, as our elected representatives, let's put a pin in the public speaking portion of this meeting and let's get to this special meeting on the calendar. No excuses. Don't forget, we are the people who voted for you. And I'll wait for that to be put on the calendar. Can we do that now?
I was going to ask, what's the special meeting going to be about? Is it going to be about?
About the form that you've had for 8 weeks.
Okay, we can have, are we allowed to have a meeting regarding the form or? So we've met 4 times regarding the form. Okay, not just the form, but other amendments to Chapter 260. Initially, we're going to do a complete overhaul. Okay, because a lot of the work Solomon did back in 2019, we want to bring that to the fore. However, we're going to go with a smaller package and continue to adopt Solomon's recommendations in addition to the ones that have already been made in this forum here. We are going to adopt the form. There are 4 types of cases that the rent leveling board hears. We only have a form for one of them, and we're trying to make forms for all 4 of those cases. So it's not just for you guys. It's going to be for any kind of case that's heard by the rent leveling board. They'd be able to use a simplified form that is basically following the statutory boilerplate language. And we are working on that. And I know it sounds simple, like just do the form, but we met with Director Chiron's office as well, and his office had recommendations as to how to strengthen things in favor of tenants as well. So it's an ongoing dialogue, and we want whatever we put forward, that it's going to be followed, that it's implementable, and that it's enforceable. So We are, I tried to check in today with Councilman Solomon at my side. We're going to check in tomorrow to see if we could bring this forward in the next council meeting within the next 2 weeks to 1 month, at least, to bring it for the first reading. And we were very ambitious in the beginning. That's not to say that we're not going to continue to pursue changes to Chapter 260, because Solomon had a lot of good ideas back in 2019. And the law department did a lot of work that got put to the wayside right before the pandemic. I mean, right as the pandemic hit, everything got shut down, so they weren't able to pursue it. So we're going to go with the small package, and we're going to put that forward. Like I said, there's 4 types of cases. Right now, we only have a form for one of them. If you guys want to put your heads together and help out with the other 3 forms, please do. And then, you know, that might help us out a lot. So that's where we're at. Regarding the meeting, I don't know if you want to have a meeting regarding the form and going over it, but
I don't know that there would necessarily be anything to meet concerning until there is a first reading, at which point you would have obviously all the full opportunity for public comment, questions. Obviously, council people, if you want to solicit the public for any input, you are welcome to do so. In fact, I would encourage that. But until such time, there's really not an agenda item that could be placed on the agenda to be, you know, considered by the council. So again, I would encourage the council people to reach out to the public, see if there's any input. And then obviously the law department will continue to work to implement what is within the metes and bounds of state law. And we'll get a finished draft out.
and with that, you know, can we agree to have a meeting once we've had the first reading of the ordinance? Is that fair?
Can we, not in a year from now?
You say that over? It's not a year from now?
Yeah, like when?
I said within the next 2 weeks to 1 month, we will have it for first reading. Okay? Is that fair?
Thank you.
Either the next council meeting or the meeting after that. Is that fair? Okay, and like I said, if you want to assist with the other 3 forms, I'm seeing a thumbs up and head shaking, so that's good. And then we can put it towards a first reading ordinance. And there was no objections when I brought the form. In fact, it would simplify a lot of people's lives. So I just want you to know there is no ill intent behind what's happening. It's actually because we're trying to be cautious and understand all the nuances and how it's going to impact people and impact different departments. And it's not just the form. There's going to be other amendments to it as well. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
Our next speaker, 5.17, John Wilson.
Hi, I'm John. I live in Portside Towers. You've heard all the stories. You've heard all the horror stories of like landlords bullying tenants. We've got no right to council. You've heard of like elevators breaking down in our building. You've heard about the floods in 70 Green. You've heard about people being trapped, effectively trapped in their apartments when they're pregnant, when they've got young families, when they've got disabilities. They can't get downstairs because the elevator's been broken. That's been going on for years. We got Equity Residential imposing penalties for non-payment of rent even after it's been paid, and then they demand legal fees. An example we heard a couple of weeks ago, 12 grand. No right to counsel, what are we going to do? Assuming we don't hear anything from Mayor Phillip, we can only assume that he thinks that the way people are being bullied by all these landlords, by these developers, he must think it's okay. We assume he thinks it's all right. If he doesn't think it's all right, then he can come along here, he can tell us. If he does believe it's fine, he presumably feels justified in feeling that way, he could come along here and he could tell us. Either way, we'd like to hear from him. We'd like to hear why he's done nothing, why he's said nothing on this matter. In Force 260, everybody in this building, everyone in this building knows that Portside Towers is not exempt from rent control. Everybody knows that. Yet Dina Hendon comes back to us and says, oh yeah, it's a clerical error. That would be laughable if it didn't display the level of contempt that they have for us. So where is Stephen Fulop? Is he going to come here and justify standing by while everyone is bullied? Another thing, I got a question for you guys. We know that you are not responsible. You don't get involved in the rent leveling board and the landlord tenant office unless processes are being broken. We heard a few weeks ago from Kevin that there's a form that Equity Residential have to fill in order to satisfy certain requirements to be exempt from rent control. That form was secretly doctored and they hope no one would notice. That can't be legal. That's a process that's not followed. Will you get involved in that? Can you investigate what's going on? Can you commit to investigating that? Can you commit to straightening it out? Can you commit to bringing whoever it is to account? Can there be a meeting about this issue? Because it can't be a legal thing.
I mean, speaking for myself, I can commit to investigating it, right? So we'll get the evidence and the information and then proceed from there.
Okay. May we hear about that in the next meeting?
I mean, I can't tell you what the responses are going to be, but I can commit to investigating it, right? It's obviously concerning. We have to get the full facts.
Okay. No filing, no exempt.
Thank you. Next speaker, 5.18, Mel Wilson.
Hi, I'm Mel Wilson. I've been a resident at Portside Towers for 11 years. I've been here for several weeks, many of these meetings, and I never wanted to have to stand up and speak myself. But as we're all still here, we need to show you that we are not going anywhere, and numbers are important and speaking is important, and I'm here to throw my hat in the ring. So this time last year, I received a rent increase of 24%. I received my renewal this year, just this week, for another 10% on top of that. That's 939 per month increase since just April 2022. And that's not even a bad example. Like, there are so many worse ones, and that in itself is unconscionable. Especially as this is despite the default position in Jersey City being rent control. We all know what's going on there. We should be under rent control. We are under rent control. They're not exempt, and yet here we are. Fulop has said in a news article that just came out today, it's highly inappropriate for him to comment while this is under review. But yet the original landlord tenant director unofficially agreed there was no exemption, mysteriously changed her mind, and then was removed from office. I don't know, voluntarily or not. The new mayor then appointed a new director, and the submissions that are in process have been seen fit to be ignored and have missed deadlines. Now, at the very least, Fulop should be commenting on his appointed personnel carrying out their roles, whether they are following procedure of the existing laws and those timelines. We can't afford this to go on. We can't afford another increase. We'll be another set of people who are leaving Jersey City, a place where we've called home for 11 years. Now, the rent increases are bad, but we live in a luxury building, right? So at least we're paying for good standard of living, and that's a joke. We've got safety issues, construction that leaks, sloping floors, mold, rodents, drafts, elevators that don't work, entry system that doesn't work, fire alarms that go off erroneously. These are all basic standards of livings, right? And we're paying a premium in our luxury building. It's disgusting. The fact that they're allowed to, Equity Residential is allowed to force charges on us, bring out legal fees, and not even give a basic standard of care, that in itself, why are we sitting back and letting it happen? I have a lot more here, which I'm not going to get through, but, you know, no filing, no exemption. Let's do the right thing, get this sorted out so we don't have to come back. Thank you.
The next speaker, 5.19, Mark Henning. Mark Henning. Not here? Okay. Next speaker, 5.20, Susan D. Felice.
Suzanne.
Suzanne, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Good evening, Council. Again, my name is Suzanne DeFelice, and I am a resident of the East Tower at Portside. I am currently overpaying a near $650 per month since my illegal rent increase started last August. That is $5,200 that I should have contributed to my savings or to possibly other local businesses, but instead has gone to the largest publicly traded REIT. First, I say the following without sarcasm or any personal attack. I really do not feel well tonight, but I am here because I care about people. This is not fun for us, and I know this is not fun for you all, that we take up 2 hours of your time every meeting. I have seen in the past several meetings, along with many of us, many council members leaving the room, not looking at speakers while they are speaking, and lawyers on their phones, or like at the last meeting, flipping through a magazine. Our fight for enforcement of the law and for the protection we deserve is exhausting, and we deserve respect and action. I want to thank Councilman Gilmore and Councilman Solomon for hosting our town hall last night at Portside. Apart from rent control, we have many safety concerns, including the desire to confirm the complex's structural integrity. At this point in our fight for tenants' rights and to enforce Ordinance 260, we have lost faith that our city lawmakers, city lawyers, and EQR have our well-being in mind. I would appreciate it if Councilman Solomon could request documentation that confirms our structural well-being from the third party and from the city who completed our last inspection. We cannot wait for Oprah delays. I have literally gone to bed with anxiety, wondering if I could be pancaked in a building collapse. Last week, I asked that Mayor Phillip attend our meetings. I have been told he doesn't normally come to these meetings. Is it normal for a group of this size to come to these meetings on a bi-weekly basis and take up more than 2 hours of your time? Is it normal that our mayor goes to Paris, paid by a private person with members of the council? I would like to invite Mayor Phillip to our next meeting so he can speak to us. Frankly, I am disappointed that you, Mr. Phillip, have not been here yet. I expect that you will run a gubernatorial campaign where you claim to be the people's mayor. All I have seen is that you are the landlord's mayor. Real leaders show up. I have seen that a few of the council genuinely care about our fight, and some have admitted that they agree with us that Ordinance 260 is not being enforced and that we are being taken advantage of. We have been told there is a process we need to follow. We can't wait for more process. Ordinance 260 is simple. Director Richardson, we demand your answer to our de novo reviews submitted over 2 weeks ago. Council, you may not have the power to force Director Richardson to do anything, but per Chapter 3, Article 2, Section 3-5, you have the power to investigate the conduct of the landlord-tenant office. Are you really doing everything you can for us? What is the holdup? The least we deserve is transparency and an open discussion in our next meeting with you.
Next speaker, 5.21, Mark Boyles.
Good evening, members of the council. I did have a speech prepared, but nothing to do with dogs and homework. But this time I have a question for the members on my right, which is, I think it's wonderful that you've decided to have a look and further look, investigate the form that was put together by the Portside people. However, I'm concerned that bundling it with 4 other forms that perhaps we will help with is going to delay matters. I would much rather you moved ahead with the one form, even though it's only a point solution. It is our point solution. And I'd rather move ahead with that. Comments?
I'll wait till you're done talking.
I'm done. Thank you.
You're done? Okay. I'm happy to explore that. If that's what the group wants, we'll take it from there, and then we'll update forms for the other kinds of cases later. I will run it with the law department tomorrow.
Okay, our next speaker, 5.22, Sylvia Meyer.
Good evening. What is going on in Jersey City? Where is Mayor Phillip, and why is he allowing his constituents to suffer from illegal rent increases? Jersey City is a rent control city. That means that by default, all buildings in Jersey City are rent controlled. There are few scenarios whereby a building is not subject to rent control. For both buildings at Portside, the only possible way for them to have been rent controlled would have been for their original owners to have filed for an exemption at least 30 days before each building's certificates of occupancy were issued. It is a known fact that the onus is on the owner of a multiple dwelling to document that its building was approved for an exemption from rent control. Equity Residential, the responsible party in this case, has not provided proof it has this documentation for either of its buildings. The city has tried to assist, but too has come up empty-handed. The default must then be that the buildings located at 100 Warren and 155 Washington Street are subject to rent control. When there is no proof to the contrary, the city must rely on the default status of the buildings. Why is the city ignoring the default status of the buildings? What is its relationship with equity? Could it be that for all the years equity paid pilots, that the city turned a blind eye to the rent control status of portside buildings because its pilot payments were funded by illegally inflated rents? Perhaps equity and the city came to an agreement this summer to lock arms in defiance of Chapter 260 in the hopes that petitioning tenants would just get tired and go away. Mayor Fulop, years ago, very publicly promised to work for tougher enforcement of Chapter 260. I stand here tonight as proof that no tougher enforcement has been instituted. Why do you remain silent? Come and explain your position to us. We want to hear from you. Usually, citizens want to support their elected officials, but you are making it impossible for us to have confidence in you. Equity has been a bad actor. The city has allowed its bad behavior to go unchecked, but it need not and should not continue. Please, Mr. Mayor, demonstrate that you're ready and worthy to participate in the race for governor. Please follow us on Twitter at RentControlJC. Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.23, Monia.
I cannot skip the words to women. Deeply, deeply appreciate your work and existence. Without you, not mankind. I wish you good health. You know, I have to remind you, previous time, one of our tenants said to everyone that council persons are smart people with high IQ. But I have to ask you a rhetorical question. Is it enough high IQ to be a member of this important body? Absolutely a rhetorical question. No doubt it's not enough. Not enough. And I can provide numerous examples of high intellect and law ethics. In New Jersey City University, there is a subject, business and ethics. And main idea in this course is law ethics equal corruption. Law ethics equal corruption. You cannot jump out from this formula. I can provide numerous examples. People behind me say to you many examples. I have my own examples and observations. I called several times landlord-tenants relations office, left a message, introduced myself, asking to call me, nobody. Finally, I called administrator, and administrator said to me, Okay, we immediately will connect you. And I said, it's questionable. And no, you will talk. Finally, a lady answered to me. What she said to me, she don't have a list of apartments in 100 Montgomery Street, which will be converted to condo or condominiums. In the same time, she asked me, what apartment do you live? And I said, what she said to me, she said, it's not under control. In other words, she proved that there is units with control and units without control. And what does it mean? Where's the ethics? I'm asking every one of you. Or I bring to my council now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, 5.24, Dina Beloga.
Trials and tribulations of public speaking. Good evening, everyone. It's good to be with you again. I'm encouraged and grateful for the support that some of you have shown to the issues we're raising on rent control and right to counsel. Specifically, we recognize Councilman Saleh, Solomon, Gilmore. We really appreciate the public support. While we appreciate the support, I am looking at the other side of the table to see where the rest of the council stands. I understand the long evenings with us repeatedly hearing about the same abuses, illegal rent increases, violations of rent control law, and lack of enforcement by the administration may be tiresome to some of you. We also understand that there's a great deal of money at stake for the city and the administration. As we know, money inevitably leads to corruption and disenfranchisement of usually the most vulnerable in our community. But while it's tiresome for you, and the prospect of losing equity's illegal gains funneled into the city is unpleasant for the administration, it's actually traumatic for those who have lost their homes and continue to face threats of eviction and unconscionable rent increases. As we've repeatedly heard this evening, we would like to know where the mayor stands on the issue. We understand that he may have more important things to attend to. Things like visiting Paris, on whose dime I'd be interested to know, spending our taxpayer money to bring a new museum to the city. Hearing that he can't comment on a quasi-judicial process. I'm curious what quasi means. This is at the expense of enforcing the law of rent control and protecting his constituents from illegal rent increases. Clearly, enforcement of the rent control law under Chapter 260 is not important to him, but it is very important to over 72% of residents of Jersey City who are renters. Finally, I'd like to remind some of the items that we've already been reviewed, that we've been raising. I know one of the things that we haven't covered is the database of the rent-controlled buildings and current exemptions and where the exemptions expire, and that's now being developed. So I think maybe, is that something else that we can follow up on?
It's going to be part of the ordinance. We're waiting for the new Tyler system to have all of this up and running, and we had a meeting with Chiron, and we want to put it as part of the package. So
excellent.
It's going to take a few months, obviously, for I don't even know. I don't want to give you a timeline, because then let's just say it's going to take time for all of that to show up on the eventual map on Tyler.
Thank you. Thank you.
Got it.
Okay, our next speaker, 5.25, Lola Gale Patrick Odine.
Good evening, council members. Happy International Women's Day. I hope that I doubt that I'm going to add any additional value here, but here goes. I think that we can all agree that our lived experience matters and helps in shaping who we are as people. And so as I listen to the news every night, it is clear that too many lives are being impacted by greed and the kind of irresponsible capitalism that's now shaping our moods and our lives. It shows up in the road rage, the theft, the murders, the assaults. It's horrendous. I don't even know why equity has the word equity in their title. It should be removed. It's inequity residential. I worked for JP Morgan Chase as a senior HR business partner for a global business in the investment bank. And I worked there for 21 years, and I can honestly state that the experience with this council is comparable. We thank you for that and for walking the tightrope that I know so well between the organization and the employees, and in your case, government and its constituents, who are the citizens of Jersey City. I was impactful in my role. I impacted policy and led transformational cultural change processes for the firm. I know now that the question that remains is really all about leadership. This mayor was supposedly bringing an end to corruption and ending the nightmares of the people of Jersey City. Ha! Yet, where is he in ensuring that the laws are kept and ending the reign of predatory landlords? It seems now that that reign is in the beginning stages as landlords like them prey upon the citizens who saw Jersey City as a respite from New York City. Where is that mayor who made those promises? We politely ask that he meets us where we are and play his role in ensuring that landlords follow the law. Where is his legal team? There was a time when the legal profession had integrity in it and honor. Where are they? What happens to people who are currently dealing with the stress that these high rent increases cause? We need immediate remedies, and we need the mayor to ensure that landlords follow the law. The mayor and his lawyers. Thank you all again for your time, your professionalism, and your advocacy for all residents. I really do appreciate you. We all do at Hudson Point. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, 5.26, Gary Murphy.
Good evening, I'm Gary Murphy, 270 Marin Boulevard. I'm speaking tonight as a longtime Jersey City resident and also a former Rent Leveling Board member. And I'm proud to stand with my neighbors from Portside who are challenging a ruling from the Rent Leveling Administrator that, in their view and mine, twisted the law to fit the facts. I also stand in support of the right to counsel. But what I'd really like to do tonight is share some history for the benefit of those of you that were not tuned in to Jersey City politics in 1981. On August 31st of that year, I was one of what the Jersey estimated was a crowd of 500 that jam-packed this room. No social distancing that day, I can tell you, when a new administration tried to ram through a vacancy decontrol ordinance. After 14 hours of public comment, primarily from opponents, the council nevertheless voted 7-2 to approve the changes. But the tenants of Jersey City in 1981 did not accept defeat. Instead, the Coalition to Save Rent Control was born, and this fledgling group, within 20 days, had gathered enough signatures to force a referendum on whether or not the changes would be allowed to stand. Wisely, rather than bring their anti-tenant measure before the voters in a special election, the administration and its council allies instead voted to rescind the changes, and rent control, as we then knew it, survived intact. The story, though, doesn't end in 1981. The newly energized tenant movement in Jersey City remained vigilant, and in 1985, supported candidates for mayor and city council who were committed to maintaining and strengthening rent control. Mayor Anthony Cucci and all 9 of his running mates were swept into office. So my message for those who may want to be on the ballot in 2025, whether in the race for governor, for mayor, or for a term on the city council, the message is simple. While the tenant movement has been a slumbering giant in recent decades, don't underestimate its power. When tenants' backs are up against the wall, when they fear they may have to leave their homes and leave our city, they will stand up, they will band together, and they will vote.
Our next speaker, 5.27, Shannon Chang.
Good evening. My name's Shannon Chang. I live in the East Building in the Portside Towers. I originally came to Jersey City in 2020 to be a temporary nurse during the COVID pandemic at the hospital here. I happened to fall in love with the city, though I was only supposed to stay 13 weeks. I fell in love with the city, the neighborhood, the diversity, the vibrancy, and the opportunity. So I stayed, and I'm still here now. I worked at Jersey City Medical Center, and I did have to leave for a higher paying job because of my rent increase. And I'm very sad about that. I believe in working and living in your same community. But I'm still working as a nurse. I did leave my shift early tonight to come speak with you about the ongoing, well-known, and thoroughly documented problem that we've been fighting for all these many months. On February 15th, I filed a petition claiming illegal rent, given my over 19% increase in rent, costing me over a year, it'll cost me $6,600. Though filing the appropriate forms on February 15th, I haven't heard anything back. We are all discouraged, we're scared, and we're angry, but we're going to continue to fight. In fact, no amount of discouragement will stop us from fighting. I personally always view problems through the lens of a nurse. That's my training, and I'm a really good nurse. The first step is always to assess a problem. Then you can pinpoint the disruption, and after that, you apply interventions. Then you reevaluate. You repeat these steps until there's a resolution. And saying, oh, well, I guess I'm tired of trying, that's not an option. As necessary, a nurse will escalate the situation through the proper channels. We have assessed, we have pinpointed, we are trying the proper and appropriate interventions. Our petitions are the proper channels, and speaking to you is our escalation. It is unacceptable that Director Richardson has ignored us. It's unacceptable for this board to not act appropriately. The next obvious escalation is our mayor, who has been irresponsibly silent in this matter. Another aspect of nursing that continues to come to mind is this. If I am asked to give a medication that is out of range or perform an action that goes against policy, I have a professional responsibility to refuse. If I don't refuse and something bad happens to the patient, I'm not allowed to say, oh, well, the doctor told me to. I'm just as responsible, given that I knew what was wrong. I hope the parallels are obvious, but if not, I will say it clearly. What Equity Residential is doing is wrong and illegal. And for this council to respond as they have is akin to a dangerous nurse saying, oh, well, the doctor told me to. I appreciate your time.
Next speaker, 5.28, Michelle Hirsch.
Hi, good evening. A few weeks ago, one of my neighbors, Alexandra Kahn, was here, and in her speech, she said that somebody is shutting down, shining a light on why there's no enforcement of 260. So let's talk about that. Back in May 8th, 2019, there was a resolution that you passed, Resolution 19-405. The resolution establishing an ad hoc committee to investigate and report on the effectiveness of Chapter 260 of the Jersey City Municipal Code, rent control, and propose amendments to Chapter 260. And there's a bunch of whereases, which includes, whereas it is believed that many landlords are failing to comply with the city's rent control ordinance and evading city's rent regulations. And whereas it has become increasingly difficult for many tenants to afford to continue residing in their homes due to their landlord's non-compliance with the city's rent control ordinance. And whereas it's further believed that many tenants are unaware of their rights in rent-controlled units. And whereas a study of the rent control ordinance is needed to determine how the city can best enforce the current regulations, as well as amend Chapter 260 to better protect tenants in the city. And then there was the composition of this special committee, which included, at the time, Council President Rolando Lavaro, Councilwoman at Large Joyce Waterman, Ward B Councilwoman Mira Prince-Ari, Ward D Councilman Michael Yoon, and Ward E Councilman James Solomon. This resolution was passed unanimously, 8-0, with Yoon absent, unanimously. On August 14th, 2019, there was another resolution to add a member to that rent control ad hoc committee. Councilman Maggiano, you weren't there, but nonetheless, you were the person that was placed on that committee. So it's always the case of the person who's not there that gets to do the work. And this resolution, whereas, was passed unanimously with Maggiano absent. And then on January 8th of 2020, there was another resolution to extend the time for this committee to submit its report and to continue studying. And so then it was also unanimously approved by this council that you were going to do this work. We all know what happened after January 2020. There was the shutdown because of COVID. But just like if I'm sick when I go to work, or any of us are sick, when we come back, we still have to do our job. You pass these resolutions unanimously to get this work done, and now you've left us hanging. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.29, Brian Markey.
I mean, the work is done, sorry. A lot of the work that the committee did is actually almost done. There just needs to be a few changes done, and that's why maybe I wrongly associated just with Councilman Solomon, but a lot of the council did work on this, and that's why there was like a big package, and we're gonna bring it forth, but it sounds like bringing that is going to take a little longer than what you guys want. So that's why we're going to try and bring the things that you want forward first. And then later on, we're going to bring the things that the entire council did, because they did a major uplift to Chapter 260 that, you know, I sat with the lawyers and they had it all marked out and everything, but I just want to give you the background. And the reason why they didn't bring it back is because there was a rent control freeze at the start of the pandemic, and it like was statewide, and it really, I don't know when it like phased out, but it was for a long time. To the end of 21.
Okay. So our next public speaker, 5.29, Brian Markey. Brian, you here? No. Next, 5.30, Frank Robertson.
Hello, council, women and men, chairperson. I'm here today just for the city of Jersey City, and I'm going to refrain from Councilperson Rivera, Maggiano, and Gilmore. You guys weren't here on July 14th, 2021, when you guys voted for, could have changed anything on there, amendments or whatever, for 21-053. And Lavaro said to the councilman, to the city attorney, Nick Strasser, he said, can we change anything in 21-053 for Jersey City residents or anything in that ordinance? And he said on YouTube that the state is the entity. Jersey City Council could not change anything in that ordinance. He said that on YouTube. You can check it out. Now you guys are going crazy about 600 feet is 200 feet. But what I will do for you is I will read the ordinance so there's no mistake, because you guys keep on saying that it might be a problem, whatever, it's this and that. So in the ordinance of 21-053, Councilman Solomon, Councilman Saleh, Waterman, Mr. Jace, Maggiano voted no, Brenzeri, and Ridley. You all voted yes. You could have changed it, but you didn't. And then in this ordinance says separation distance. The main door of any cannabis establishment subject to Class 5 license shall be at least 200 feet from any school identified on the city's official drug-free school and park zones. Also, on B says, exception to school distance would be if you were a pre-existing business there. Now, it says on C, the main entry door of any cannabis establishment subject to Class 5 license, including micro businesses, shall be separated. Thou shalt not kill. Shall be separated by 600 feet. It says 600 written, and it's in parentheses, it's 600. So you guys, if you read your ordinance, it's 600 feet. I've been saying to the city council, I said it to the CCB board, Councilman Gilman was there. It's 600 feet. You cannot change it.
Our next speaker, 5.31, Tish Adams. Tish, not here. Okay, our next speaker, 5.32, Juan Pinder.
Good evening, Council. I'm here in support of JC Element. I have known Kushan Patel and Rafael Corona since they were teenagers. I have seen their work as teenagers all the way into adulthood. They have been through a lot. They have worked very hard. They follow the rules. And I'm here to support what they're doing, their vision, their venture. And I would hope you will grant their wishes to have them move on and continue their path to their career and success. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.33, Rosanna Villaflor.
Good evening, City Council members. Happy International Women's Day. Forgive me, I will be reading, because I just want to make sure I stick to the time. My name is Rosanna Villaflor, and I am here to advocate for the approval of JC Elements licensing to conduct business in the Heights, owned by Mr. Kushan Patel and Rafael Corona. I can attest that there are so many people in our community from different backgrounds, cultures, and political beliefs that support Mr. Patel and Mr. Corona. And I'm just one of those voices here tonight advocating on their behalf. Their supporters reflect the rich diversity of Jersey City because they are Jersey City. Just a brief background about myself as a supporter of JC Element. I'm a public school teacher, product of the Jersey City Public Schools. I'm a proud graduate of William L. Dickinson High School, JC Arts High School, and an NJCU alumni. I do consider myself as a conservative, Mr. Maggiano. And I was raised Catholic in a traditional Filipino-American household. Prior to becoming a teacher, I've served in several leadership positions throughout my academic career. I've served as president of the Filipino Club, president of the Art and Design Association, a student government organization in NJCU. I was also the arts editor for the Gothic Times. Since then, I've been a co-founder and vice president of Kuda Culture, a small nonprofit organization that utilizes breakdancing to promote healthy lifestyles for our youth. In 2012, I was honored and proclamated as a woman of action by the former mayor Jeremiah Healy. All this to say that I am Jersey City all day, every day. As a school teacher, I'm a strong advocate for young people. That really goes without saying. As a professional, adult, and individual, I'm a firm believer in allowing responsible, professional adults, especially Jersey City residents, the ability to conduct business accordingly and a fair chance to succeed in our own hometown. I've known Mr. Patel and Mr. Corona to be two of the most responsible, hardworking, passionate leaders in everything that they do. I have no doubt that they will be enforcing all rules and regulations accordingly in regards to their business to not only support their families, but also to ensure the revival of our small businesses in our community. I believe I echo the voice of Jersey City residents when I say, let's give Jersey City back to Jersey City, to whom it belongs. And that includes supporting the licensing for small businesses owned by local residents. I urge you to support JC Element to proceed with their licensing procedures and to conduct business. Thank you for your time, your service. Thank you.
Next speaker, 5.34, Louis Cruz. Not here? Oh, he's here.
Evening to the council. My name is Antonio Estevez. Luis Cruz unfortunately could not be here today, so I will be speaking on his.
Nope, can't do that, sir. Sorry.
Okay, well, I also represent Hogar Crea.
He's the next speaker? Okay. Hogar Crea? That's
Crea, yeah.
There you go. Let me restart your time. Sorry about that. Okay, go.
Right, so Hogar Crea is a rehabilitation center where JC Elements has donated to our facility. They have donated food as well as cosmetics for the residents that we have there. I am a subdirector at the facility. I'm here to support JC Elements as well. They are here to do good things, as they've been doing for our program. That is pretty much all I have to say.
Thank you. And next speaker, 5.36, John Collins.
Yeah. A golf announcer. Hello, friends. My name is John Collins. I'm an attorney in the city of Jersey City, as many of you know. I want to say good evening and thank you to the members of this council for your service to the city and for what you do. I'm here in support of my client, JC Element LLC, an applicant for local support for operating a Class 5 cannabis retail license in Jersey City. Resolution number 23-189, agenda number 10.42. My clients are a social equity applicant designated by the state. They're lifelong born and raised Jersey City residents. They're small business owners. They're not an out-of-state corporation. They're not a well-funded conglomerate who recently relocated to Jersey City because they suddenly like it. They're not a 5% minority-owned scam masquerading as somebody from here or as an all-inclusive business. They are real minority owners, real social equity applicants, real Jersey City residents, and real small business owners. I speak tonight because I felt compelled to advocate on their behalf because I poured over hours of footage of the council meetings. And I realized that there are some miscommunications or misstatements, misunderstandings regarding what's going on. My clients were approved by the planning board on the 22nd of March, 2022. They were the first approval on Central Avenue. Everybody else up there after that went for their approvals knowing that 365 Central Avenue was going to be a cannabis dispensary, and they still chose to go forward while my clients were already approved by the planning board by resolution supplied to this council. My clients have been approved by the CCB board. They were approved in February of 2023. You ask yourself why it took so long. I'm their third attorney. They were dropped twice. I'm all they have left because I was the last one who would help them, and they deserve it. Accordingly, we're among the first in this process, and I've done it right all along. We have planning board approval, we have CCB approval, and now we need council approval. My clients are what this was made for. They are what the cannabis movement is about. We have seen others be granted their resolution before us who came after us in the application process, and they were less qualified. We're only the second social equity applicant to come before Jersey City. We're 60 points above anyone else if we get our resolution, because that's what they are about. Councilwoman Ridley, I want to thank you for on the record saying that we can't tell people where to do business and for advocating for small businesses. Councilwoman Prinzari, I want to thank you for protecting the little guy. You've been doing it all along. Councilman Maggiano, you love Jersey City probably more than anyone. You're born and raised and you advocate for the little guy. Meet my clients. Councilwoman DeGise talks about social equity, inclusivity, diversity, being born and raised in Jersey City and supporting our own. Well, there they are. Councilman at large, Mr. Rivera, Viva Barica, right? Viva Hispanics, Viva, where are they? Hey, Rafael Corona. Councilman Soleil, you've been with us from the beginning. Thank you.
All right. Our next speaker, 5.37, Rafael Corona.
Good evening all. My name is Rafael Corona. I am a Puerto Rican raised Jersey City resident in the Heights and a social equity applicant. I'm here to plead my case. I spent the first 4 months after winning a conditional license for the state of New Jersey CRC searching for property that fit within the city planning and zoning board requirements. In case you are wondering why it took so long, many green zone property landlords were not willing to do cannabis with my kind or were charging an excessive amount, which I couldn't afford. I finally found a property that met the requirement posed by the city of Jersey City and went through the entire process in the manner in which the application is supposed to go through. I have spent in excess fees of $15,000 in the city, applications and professional fees to the date, just to be at this point to receive a municipal support resolution so that I may abide by the state of New Jersey timeline to submit my conversion application. Through no fault or lack of due diligence of my own, I now stand before you to express the urgency that this municipal support resolution to be heard today and voted on. I know the inconsistency related to the cannabis industry process in Jersey City and lack of communication between departments has created a whirlwind of challenges for everyone, especially us applicants. Many of the city requirements were mirrored from the state CRC requirements. However, no city department took into consideration to add into the ordinance the CRC #1 priority, which is social equity, which left me heartbroken. However, on March 22nd, when the planning board began reviewing the extensive list of applications they have received, since October of 2021, there were 17 municipal support resolutions distributed. Only 2 were for Jersey City social equity applicants. None were in the Heights. 5 have absolutely zero ties to Jersey City remaining, and the rest are like women minority owned, veteran owned, and also have no ties to Jersey City. I've been a part of my community since 1996, helping everywhere I can, coaching kids in boxing, breakdancing, feeding the homeless, attending to all the Heights events, from giving turkeys to donating toys, you name it, I've done it. You have seen the CCB meeting. You have read my speech from that day. You have seen my struggles. I have weathered all the storms that Jersey City has given me. I'm just asking for my fair chance. Sorry, just asking for my fair chance for you to hear me out and don't make me another statistic. Give the minority guy a chance to win. I'm here asking you to give me a chance, and you vote today to give me the opportunity to run my cannabis business. Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.38, Kusan Patel.
How's it going, everyone? Thank you for having us up here and giving us the opportunity to speak. I would like to thank everybody here for listening to us. But this is actually the scariest speech I'm ever going to make. The reason being is the decision that you guys make on the council changes our whole life course. Right now, we've had so many different issues trying to even get to where we are right now, especially when it came to looking for location. First thing we were always told was you need site control. We got a lease, got for 10 years. Now we're stuck in that lease for 10 years. We can't get out of it. It's to the point where if they say no, we lose everything that we put into this. It's, to us, it's scary, but it's something that we need. We have to move forward. And the thing is, all the requirements you've asked for us, we've did our best to actually get there. We're 100% minority. We're social equity. We've done so much community work since 1996. We've been together since high school, Ralph and I. We've been teaching breakdancing since like 1998 to every community, every school, after school programs. We don't get paid for that. It's something that we did out of the goodness of our heart, because that's how leaders are brought up. You have to teach everything you learn, you pass on. And it's to the point where everybody that we see in our community every day wants us to succeed. But our biggest hurdle, there's so many roadblocks. And we would just like to say, just give us the opportunity. If we have the opportunity, you'll see, we'll make you proud. Thank you.
Our next speaker, 5.39, Mildred Purdy. Mildred? Not here? Okay. Next speaker, 5.40, Philip Carrington. And see Philip. And our last speaker, 5.41, Michelle Massey.
You said something about my age?
No, Frank said you're not here.
I'm only messing with you. But yeah, I'm getting older. Good evening, everyone. My head is just filled with so much I've heard here this evening, but I'm here with regard to the urban enterprise zone resolutions. And in reading through them, it was a little confusing and vague. But it's my understanding that there's a deadline. And I don't want the opportunity missed because of the deadline, especially if it's valid that things can be altered after the fact. Can anyone confirm that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We could always ask for an addendum and change the uses for each tranche.
Okay, wonderful.
It would be supplemental, but yeah, that would be the best way to do
Okay,
it.
that changed my mindset a lot, but, and also I noticed that there was an added item which would afford the special improvement districts funds, and then it says support services. I have no idea what that means. Is there more explanation online with the support documentation that we normally see? Anyone?
Yeah, so this is more for cleanliness, anything that you would need as far as supplies, materials. We can get you a full list for the EDC, but more operating costs that you would need, not necessarily manpower or people power, sorry.
Okay, because I don't know if you all are aware, but all the SIDs submitted proposals to Florence at EDC with regard to how we would spend UEZ funds. And for all these ordinances to be up and no consultation or information gathering from the SIDs is a bit disturbing. I don't know how people plan for districts that they really don't have much to do with. We're the ones on the ground. We're the ones really dealing with property owners and businesses. So not to talk to us is a bit baffling. So I request that you all request that there be a meeting with the SIDs and EDC and all relative parties so it can be made clear. And there was something said earlier about us submitting our proposals or our projects, I guess, to EDC. And again, in a way, we've already done that. So if they want us to elaborate on what we've already submitted last year, I'm sure that can be done. And I'm happy that that last ordinance was added again, because I was a little frustrated because there was no commitment to the improvement districts, which run way too many commercial corridors. And that just should not be. So food for thought next year. And I'm hoping to get that information.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
All righty. Okay, so council members, any questions or comments on petitions and communications, items 6.1 through 6.17? Hearing none, any any questions or comments on office communications 7.1? Any questions or comments on report of directors 8.1 through 8.2? And on to our claims and addendums number 1 and number 2. Council members going to be taking a vote on claims and addendums number 1 and number 2. Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye.
Councilperson Baggiano. Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilperson DeGise. And Council President Pro Tempore Rivera.
Aye.
Claims and addendums number 1 and number 2 are approved unanimously 8-0 with Council President Waterman absent. On to our resolutions. Taking a vote on items 10.1 through 10.13 with the exception of 10.8, 9, and 10, which have been withdrawn. Again, that's items 10.1 through 10.13 with the exception of 8, 9, and 10, which have been withdrawn. Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary. Councilperson Baggiano. Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
John, I have a few questions real quick. Believe about probably 2 or 3, maybe 4 meetings ago, we seen money taken from recreation, I think upwards of 375,000 or in the area. And now we see recreation getting back 100 in the future. Because you said OE was the operating expenses. So the money that they moved, as I understood, that was operating expenses too, because they said it was for employees that they were supposed to have a program and they didn't do that program.
Councilman, are you referring to 10.1 or 10.2?
10.1, but my question is referring to when we moved the 375 from recreation when we voted probably about 2 or 3 meetings ago. So I'm trying to really figure out, I'm just trying to figure out for the sake of continuity, when we're doing these transfers, one, the rationale, I just see 100 and I don't see what the 100 is slated to be spent on. And then 2, for me to see money move from recreation, then move back into recreation within the same time frame is a little problematic.
Yeah, you're right, Councilman. So the original transfer that you saw was for monies from last year. Those were 2022 dollars. So if they're not expended by December 31st, they can't be allocated towards this year. So these dollars here are additional funds that are new money from this year's tax base. The dollars that were last year were left over paying for bills that were from last year as well. So all the money stays within the same year. It's that you approved it at the end of the year to transfer it back. Yeah.
So in the future, and I believe you alluded to this Monday, if we can just see what this additional 100,000, I'm just using recreation for an example because I mean recreation is near and dear to my heart. If we can see when this money would be spent on.
Yeah, so I think it's best, and I'll work with the budget committee and all council members that have input, but I think it'd be best to do the account number, the amount, and then the line item describing, right? So OE consists of supplies, contracts, uniforms, right? So they should break each one of those out, saying the 100,000s for 10,000 for lighting at the park, 10,000 for uniforms, you know, that type of thing. So that's what we'll see moving forward, and we won't entertain anything that doesn't have that detail.
Thank you. I vote aye, Sean.
Thank you. Councilperson DeGise.
Aye.
And Council President Pro Temp Rivera.
Aye.
Items 10.1 through 10.13, with the exception of 8, 9, and 10, are approved unanimously 8-0 with Council President Waterman absent. On to our next set of resolutions, items 10.14 through 10.25. Again, that's items 10.14 through 10.25. Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary. Councilperson Bajano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilperson DeJeece.
Aye.
And Council President Pro Temp Rivera.
Aye.
Items 10.14 through 10.25 are approved unanimously 8-0 with Council President Waterman absent. On to items 10.26 through 10.35. Again, that's 10.26 through 10.35. Councilperson Ridley.
Aye.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Aye for all, but specifically for, in this case, 1026 through 1030, and including 1025. As mentioned at the caucus meeting, there are concerns about some of the resolutions. I understand that there are deadlines that we need to meet. We don't want to lose this money, but I do expect to work with the EDC and the VA's office on these amendments. And I also would highly suggest that while we are getting the UEZ funding back into the city, we go back to quarterly meetings with the SIDS. They were mostly helpful. I won't say fully helpful at the time. Let's be real about that. But I do think that this way, we know that the SIDS are engaged and we know that the concerns in our commercial corridors are being addressed across the entirety of the city.
Yeah, I agree, Councilwoman. I think once we get past this 15th deadline, we'll schedule a meeting based on that application and working with the SIDS on how to start allocating the funds.
Okay. Councilperson Bajano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon.
Aye.
Councilperson Gilmore.
Aye.
Councilperson DeJeece.
Aye.
And Council President Pro Temp Rivera.
Aye.
Items 10.26 through 10.35 are approved unanimously 8-0 with Council President Waterman absent. Okay, council members, for the balance of our resolutions, and that includes items 10.36 through 10.45. Again, that's items 10.36 through 10.45. Councilperson Ridley.
On 41 and 42, I know we've been having a lot of discussions around these dispensaries. And at the caucus, I asked about 41, which we know didn't have any conflict with the distance, and 42, which may have conflict with distance, but based off of what was discussed here tonight and discussed previously, it seems that they have had all of their paperwork in. I know that we've asked to not see any more applications after tonight. So based on the fact that they did have their paperwork in ahead of time, and we've probably should have been basing our decisions on their location all of this time, and they are Jersey City residents, I'm going to vote aye for all.
Councilperson Prinzary.
So briefly for 41 and 42, the last couple of meetings, we've had conversation about what we can do to make amendments to make sure that the CCB planning and council are all working in tandem when it comes to these applications. Because again, as noted, we're one of the only cities without a cap. And I think that I want to thank Ron Maldonado from the CCB board, the lawyer there, for sending the memo to the council. I think that was also very helpful, and we do need to start taking a look at this because this is only going to continue. And it is not fair for social equity participants in the process to suddenly be out of pocket because they couldn't do it in a timely enough fashion because they didn't have all of their funding in place. I think that that's one of the reasons why they give that criteria at the state level, something we may want to consider here. I do think we need to pump the brakes for a little bit just to make sure that we have some of these issues in order. I'm going to vote aye for all. I'm not going to waste your time with this, but there are very serious concerns and we do need to address them before it goes out for too long. And also there's, a lot of businesses that have a lot of things at stake here. And we also don't want to see storefronts where there should have been businesses the whole time.
Thank you. Councilperson Bajano.
Aye.
Councilperson Saleh.
I'm gonna vote aye for all, and I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna reiterate too much of what was said, but I do believe we should have a cap on the number of cannabis establishments. Obviously, when we first thought about it, I was opposed to it, but it seems like the floodgates have opened up, and we should also give priority to social equity applicants. I know that Raphael and Kashan, like you guys are born and bred like on the mountains of the Palisades and the Heights, and you're social equity applicants, and you check all the boxes that this law was made for, and I'm proud to vote aye for you guys, and honestly honored to have witnessed your journey. So aye for all.
Thank you, Councilperson Solomon.
First, I want to vote no on 1040. We just received the confidential memo about this legal settlement today, but what's public for the people is that it's a $650,000 legal settlement. And while we're in the midst of a massive tax increase, I just can't feel comfortable expending that level of money, given the conduct described in that memo, without serious discussion. Memos of the settlements of that size and that scope, I think, deserve deep scrutiny. So on 1040, I vote no. On 41 and 42, I'm going to abstain. All the reasons that were listed are reasons why, frankly, this establishment should have been approved and should be approved. But as a council, we can't say we need to rework the system and pause and figure things out, but then selectively choose who gets to keep going forward. We got to figure this out and make it fair. They went to the planning board first. Other Central Avenue businesses went further. There might have been, issues with, representation attorneys, and that's why we need to work out a fair system for everyone, right? And given that we've all said on the public record that there's an issue, well, then we've got to address the issue, and we can't say this one gets to go and that one doesn't. There was a resolution for a different one that we took off the agenda that hasn't come back. So ultimately, we're going to have to answer to everyone at how the rules were fair. So for me, we should be abstaining until we can set the fair rules where homegrown social equity applicants get to go first. But until those rules are in place, I'm going to abstain. And then I'm going to vote aye on all the rest.
Thank you, Councilperson Gilmore.
Yes, I'm going to abstain on 1040. I didn't, I guess, Peter, you may have sent it, but I didn't have time to review it. And I share some of the sentiment of Councilman Salomon with respect to the amount of money and seeing that we just increased taxes on local residents. With respect to the rest of them, I'm gonna vote aye. Initially, I was pondering voting against the dispensaries, but considering everything that we try to do with cannabis to give the little guy a chance, to give affected communities a chance, to give people from Jersey City a chance, to give the right people a chance. And I think it would be very unfair to penalize someone because they don't have the funding or rich uncle to donate or whatever. But I do understand the concerns with respect to the floodgates are open with this cannabis stuff. So I do want to say publicly for the record that if they do send more, I'm not voting on any more unless we have some type of structure in place for these dispensaries. So I'll abstain on 40. I'll vote aye on the rest.
Thank you, Councilperson DeGise.
I have to abstain on 10.42. I vote aye on all the rest.
Thank you. And Councilperson Rivera. Council President Pro Temp Rivera, excuse me.
So on 1042, I want to congratulate you guys. You're doing a great job. You knocked it out the park, making sure that everything that you did, you followed through with all your paperwork. I'm proud that that this is a minority-based business, very proud of you guys. The fact that you guys help out Hogar Crea means a lot to me. I have personal family members that went through this program. This program has always been there to help a lot of Jersey City people, not just Jersey City people, but a lot of the people that went through this program have been helped a whole lot. Substance abuse is rough in this world. And the fact that you have attached yourself to helping an organization like that, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you. So I proudly vote aye on all of them.
Thank you. Okay, if you can just allow me to recap, items 10.36 through 10.39 are approved unanimously 8-0 with Council President Waterman absent. Item 10.40 is approved 6-1-1 with Council Member Solomon voting no and Councilperson Gilmore abstaining. Item
Motion
10.
to adjourn.
I'm not done yet. Item 10.41 is approved 7-0-1 with Councilperson Solomon abstaining. And item 10.42 is approved 5-0-2 with Council Members Solomon and DeGise abstaining. And items 10.43 through 10.45 are approved unanimously 8-0 with Council President Waterman absent. Before we make a motion to adjourn, I forgot to do this at the last meeting, but want to sing a nice special happy birthday to our council members, Soleil and Solomon.
And Joyce,
So
Council President.
we got to sing. You got to sing. We can't adjourn yet. We got to sing.
And also
Second the
Council
motion.
President.
There are 3 Pisces on the council, so that explains a lot.
There you go. All right. So let's go.
Happy
Birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, all the council members born in this month. Happy birthday to you. Very good.
motion.
All
Motion
right,
to adjourn.
motion to adjourn
Second.
at 8:26 PM was made by Council. What?
DeGise.
Motion was made by Council President Pro Temp Rivera, seconded by Councilperson DeGise. On the motion to adjourn at 8:26 PM, Councilperson Ridley, Councilperson Prinzeri, Councilperson Baggiano, Councilperson Saleh,
Aye.
Councilperson Solomon, Councilperson Gilmore, Councilperson DeGise, and Council President Pro Temp Rivera. Motion to adjourn at 8:26 carries 8-0 with Council President Waterman absent. Thank you so much, everyone present and everyone watching at home. Remember, stay safe and teamwork makes the dream work. Have a great night.
Anybody else does?